excited that that we're able to stream together again, and oh.
I just went live. Sorry about that. Hi everyone. Welcome back to costumeco. Anyway, this is we're doing a live stream about this show Severance, and I'm so thrilled to have with me HaxDogma. We were just talking. It's been so long. We haven't seen each other in ages, and I actually had one of my viewers who is like, hey, I was watching Hax's video, and I said, oh my God, I should invite him to come on. So here you are. We know each other from Westworld and of course Game of Thrones. But maybe when I'd love to have you on when the new show Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out. Maybe are you going to be watching that?
I'm definitely going to be watching it. I don't know if I'm going to do any review stuff, but I'm most certainly going to watch that show.
Okay, well, maybe you'll come on and we can just chat about it.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's one of my favorite things to do is just chat with other people about things I love watching.
Yeah, there is there's a difference between like making it content and just enjoying it. I love I mean, I wouldn't make content about the shows unless I love the shows. Baby, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No, exactly. Like I know. Let me ask you this. Because I was mentioning to you, I had P Peppers on, and he likes to make content about shows that he enjoys, and I'm the same. And I get people asking me all the time, Heidi, would you do this show? Would you do this show? And I'm like, you know what, I could, but it would probably kill me. It would hurt me to have to do it.
There is especially when you have to like be objective and like just criticize the thing. It takes.
Is that your puppy?
It is a puppy.
I want to see the puppy.
Oh, Marble, come here.
Oh, I love it.
He's infatuated with a little Lammy.
Maybe he'll make an appearance at some point.
Hopefully.
Sorry, what were you saying regarding working on something that you don't enjoy?
Just like well, first off, if I watch something, if someone's like, hey, you need to watch this, it's the most incredible thing. Give me 1 second. Come on. There you go. Come on. Come on. Let's go.
When as soon as we get Hax back here, we're going to start talking about Severance. And if you guys have any questions for Hax, just leave them in the comments and we will get to them as soon as we can.
Okay.
There you are. So
Dog is very excited that I'm home.
So
but if somebody is swearing by a TV show and then I watch it and I'm like just immediately wanting to be critical of it, I know that I'm not enjoying it as much as that person, and I'm just not able to review it or something. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want to ever be on the internet and just being a jerk on about other creative people's work. Like any TV show that we could ever watch has an unknown amount of creative people that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into that thing. And I would, just because I can't resonate with the message, I don't want to get on the internet and just like hate on something.
Yeah, no, I totally, you and I think are similar in our sort of, worldview about, enjoying entertainment. And there's so much of it out there, and not, like for instance, I'm not really a big reality television person. Like I know people adore it and love it. Or I get, a lot of animated shows. I get people asking me, and I'm like, guys, I do watch some animated, but, I can't do costumes. Like, really, it's not really the same thing. There is sometimes a costume person who does like sort of decide what the outfits are that these characters wear. But, so some things I'm just like, I can't really do that. But let me ask you about this show, though, Hax, because you and I met sort of during the Westworld tour, and I have been like, when I've been watching this show, I have been getting some Westworld vibes. Are you getting any of those at all?
So I honestly, I feel like I can't be objective. I'm glad that you said that, because it feels like there are some big themes. I think that immortality and, recreating humanity in some kind of capacity is going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like there's some fidelity test things going on.
Absolutely. Like what was going on with Gemma.
Right. Like all of those things, it could be, because I guess we still don't know, by the end of the finale, but all of those things could be to verify that she is the same person that she was in some capacity. Although I think that the finale does kind of move a little bit further away, because it was just, they made a point to like highlight the barrier as as if the other theory was right, assuming that it's like a thing they're trying to sever for like every possible thing that you could suffer through, such as like the loss of a child. But yeah, like watching the show constantly, I come back to Westworld, and I can't tell if it's just me or there are some things going on like that.
No, there's a lot. Well, okay, before we get into this, I want to just warn everyone there will be spoilers. So,
Oh yes.
because we've all watched, or at least Pete, Hax and I've watched up until the end of season 2. We're going to talk about the latest episode. But, if you haven't watched it, like, honestly, I don't want to ruin it for anybody. So please don't watch it. You can come back after and see it.
Yes.
Also, definitely check
spoilers.
out Hax's his breakdown that he's been doing. I put a link to his YouTube channel below. And well, Hax, before we get into this, do you want to just do a quick little intro? I forgot to do that with the dog and everything.
Yeah, the dog absolutely derailed. Sorry.
That's okay. Dogs take priority.
Yeah, he's a cute guy. I am HaxDogma. Heidi, thank you so much for being here. It is or having me. It is so wonderful to see you again and just hang out and chat. My channel kind of dives into different TV shows right now. Big focus on Severance. Before that, it was Shogun. All the way back to like Westworld was when I really started believing that I had an opinion to share on the internet about TV shows. And yeah, other people tell me that they like my videos and me rambling about the things that I like. So that's what you'll find.
Yeah, that's sort of like me. So I always sort of say, I always sort of look at what would I want to know or what would I be interested in, and that's sort of how I approach it. And it's the same one. Like if I talk to a designer, I always ask them questions like, well, what I really want to know. So that's, I think that's one of the things as creators we have in common. We all have a passion for these shows. Now, I have to tell you a quick little story that a couple of years ago, I think it was probably 3 years ago, just as Severance season 1 was concluding, I was on Robert's show, Peak, Robert, and he had me on a Christmas show. And I remember at the end of the year, they were like, okay, what was your favorite show? And I had watched House of the Dragon and I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't have that feeling for it. I wanted to, but I just didn't have it. So Robert said, Heidi, what was your favorite show of that year? And I said, you know what, honestly, it would have to be Severance. And nobody on the panel knew what I was talking about.
Nope.
And I even did a breakdown on the costumes. So, one of the things, were you one of those early watchers or did you come into it like a little bit later?
So I had, there's a supporter of mine who goes by Michael Link, and he, I believe, was the first person to tell me about Severance. And he told me while it was airing. I think a season of Westworld had just ended or something. And so I was looking for a new show. And that was going to be the one that I continued. When I first watched it, I knew that I loved it, but I didn't think that I had like valuable things to say about it or like that pull to create content for it. It kind of just seemed like one that I was going to watch and just enjoy privately. And then 3 years went by, or almost 3 years went by. And there were some comments asking, or like, even like on older videos talking about Severance and stuff. And then finally I rewatched it and I was like, there is some really cool things happening here. Like some concepts that like I want to share, in case people don't know or something, or just give my perspective on. And yeah, that was ultimately why I started. And like 8 months ago is when when I made the first Severance video. And pretty much since then, I've been focused only on Severance.
That's amazing. Well, like one of the ways I was mentioning earlier, I had P. Peppers on during the mid-season, and he was one of the only creators who was really covering the show.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got into him. And then he started doing Silo, and, I love Silo as well.
I was going to say, have you seen it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I did a review on the costumes as well. So it's weird because I was so immersed in this medieval fantasy world, with things like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time, or, there's so many wonderful fantasy shows, but I've really been sort of drawn to these more contemporary. I mean, Severance is an interesting thing because it's not really contemporary in some ways. It's like, it's basically an alternative reality, I suppose you could say. Ben Stiller, I think, has described it. He wanted it to be kind of like no time, like a no time
Oh.
time. So, so with this show and also with Silo, which again is kind of contemporary, like people wear mostly regular clothes, but it's in this really like
A different
bonkers
world.
kind of world, right? And so
Yeah,
the same with
really.
Severance. Like we're not quite sure like what is going on outside of Kier, except for Salt Neck or whatever. We don't really
Salt's
know
Neck.
what's happening
Yeah.
in the world, right?
Yeah, and it's like it has this impression that it is modern times, but also there's different discrepancies. Like it could also be in 2075 based on like the quarters that have, gone by. That when we see like Irving, goodbye Irving, he's worked like 882nd quarter was like his last quarter. And then you reverse, you equate that to 4 of those per year, and then you see that like X amount of time has passed if 1860 was the start of the company. And it's like, okay, it's either like current times because of his driver's license in season 1 or 2075. And I guess the show is never going to tell us, or I don't know. I don't know if I would, right? Like it's cooler if we just don't know.
I kind of like the not knowing. Like it was this is where I sort of, some of the feeling I have with this is similar to Westworld. So in the first season of Westworld, which, I think is the best season.
Absolutely.
We don't know anything outside the park. We're just like in the park with all the characters, and we're learning along the way as I guess the hosts are learning. And so I kind of love this in a way that we are learning everything as the innies are learning, they're growing. And so that's why I was sort of feeling that parallel between the innies and the hosts. Like, they're, they're second class citizens. They're treated very poorly. I mean, they have to like feed them and, have them bathrooms and things like that. I mean, certain human rights, but they really are looked down upon. They don't really have any rights. And so it sort of reminds me in that way of the hosts.
Yeah. And it's so funny. That's a great analogy. And like even the finale, Mark not going with Audi Mark's plan or having some resistance to it was so smart, because I feel like myself and some people that have, texted me about it after the show, like Mark didn't really have agency into that point. Like we knew that he wanted things, but it seemed like everybody was just assuming he would go with whatever Audi Mark wanted to do. And then, it just, the finale does a good job of reminding us that like, that's his life. Like that's his entire existence. He's not just about to throw it away. Even though it's like, even though from the outside, it's like, it's kind of weird, right? Like why not just come together? Why not just be this perfect this perfect team together? And I think
like it's a symbiotic relationship that no, Jack, my husband and I, because he's actually the one who got me into watching it. He said, Heidi, there's this new show out on Apple. I think you'd really like it. And so the other day we were talking about after the finale, what would it look like if, say, what do you call it? Reintegrated Mark had a relationship with Hallie and with Gemma.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about them living in a house with like a divider, and then I guess like the chip would, like, I don't know. We were trying to figure that out. And maybe he would spend 12 hours with one, like sister wives,
First off,
we were trying to figure it out, like
great application of the technology.
It was so funny because I did a play years ago and it was called Run for Your Wife. And it was about this guy, like a really average guy, kind of like Mark. Like Mark, I mean, at least his Audi Mark right now is a very kind of like everyman. Some people were talking about his earlier Mark is more like kind of hotter. But right now we're dealing with a sad sack Mark.
The early Mark with the beard is hotter. 100%.
Yeah, it's hotter.
100%.
For sure. So, anyway, I did this play, and so this guy, he's like an everyman, and he's married to a woman, and then he meets another woman and he gets married to her. So in the play, what we did was we had the foreground of the play, everyone downstage would be the general acting area, and then the upper part of the stage would be their apartments, like split. So he would come in the door for one apartment, and then he would come in the door for the other apartment. And the whole joke of the play is that the two wives don't know about each other, and then eventually they find out about each other. It's a comedy. So I was trying to imagine just trying to imagine Mark living this life with these two different women, you know?
First off, I think you are describing a gold application of the tech. There
Yeah.
is some crazy, even if it's not, even if it's just a single man, single woman, or any kind of relationship, um, you could have you could do some crazy stuff with like, say you want to fight, say you want to, or you're in an argument or something,
Mhm.
then you could just sever, or like, deal with that in
Mhm.
some kind of severance kind of way. The applications with two different versions of yourself are like, in a relationship is kind of interesting, and specifically with like Helly and Mark, it would be kind of funny if Helly or Helena just makes a deal with Helly that, they all live in this mansion together, and they agree like, hey, let's not end the world.
Mhm.
Let's also just, love and exist together. And then they each, it's like a quarter, or the house is split into quarters, and there's all these different ways that the innies and outies can interact in certain rooms, that they only exist in those certain rooms, but they ultimately get to still exist together. Like, I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because we were
that's something
saying,
cool.
well, obviously they have the tech to be, I mean, they were able to do it even in an outdoor area.
Yeah.
Although, some people argued that wasn't. I still think it was. I don't
The
know.
the Orpo.
The Orpo, yeah. Did you
Yeah.
think that
Well,
was an actual outdoor area? Do you think that was in a controlled area in the building?
truly, truly, I really do think it is inside,
Mhm.
solely because of the television. Like,
Okay, but you don't think that could have just been, like a, because my husband's an AV guy. He goes, "Oh, there's
yeah,
like, remote, what do you call it? Virtual."
uh-huh.
But I know what you're saying. It did seem strange.
Yeah, because it just appears, right? Like,
Mhm.
they show a shot right before that.
Oh, you mean it's not because it's not plugged in, it's because it wasn't there originally. So
It
you think
literally
it
didn't
was like
exist.
it didn't exist. Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's interesting.
we see the shot, and, like, when I was writing, I completely overlooked this on my first watch, or when I was actually reviewing it on my second or third watch, and I was just writing how I didn't even think of the power aspect of it. Other commenters were like, how does it work? And I was like, "Oh, it could be a battery or something." But the fact that or I'm sorry, when I was writing, I noticed that they show the exact shot, because I was like, why wouldn't Dylan say something about it? Why wouldn't he be like, hey, y'all, there's a television behind you? um but it wasn't there. Like, there's
Ah,
one shot and there's nothing. It's like, you see the cliff, and you see the same rock, so that we can confirm that it is nothing there. And then when it appears, it's the same rock, and then the TV's there. And to me, the only way that I think that it is not a virtual thing in a team building space that was on PD's little map there in season one, is if it was an aesthetic choice for the horror element of it, right? Because like the whole episode is like really, like, it's like a horror episode, in some degree.
agreed. Yeah, like especially like the way that the lighting and the color grading
Yeah.
and everything felt.
It's like a slow crawl through it. There's like these
Yes.
like mimics that exist. They're deep cave dives, and then Irving gets jump scared, and all of us get jump scared. Um,
Mhm. And
yeah,
the creepy like twins or whatever they're called.
yeah, yeah.
They like that was just super disturbing.
And so I think that if it's not in Ortbo, then that simply could just be like like a horror thing, right? Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to make sense, because it's like there for the scary sudden appearing aspect of it. Like, we are Helly and Mark and Irving noticing the TV, not
Mhm.
the uh over um omniscient watcher or something. Um but yeah, I don't know. I really do. I want it to be inside, simply because it would be a cool application of the team building space concept. Um, and then also Gemma in the testing floor episode,
Mhm.
we see her in the airplane,
Yeah, exactly, for
and
sure,
it's
and that must have been a big space.
yeah, and so it's either like, and they could simulate it. You have the windows with
Mhm.
like certain TVs that look like, the outside, and simulate all that stuff, and then you just get like a big, like, rocking room, kind of, that
Mhm.
bounces up and
I
down.
think they do have simulators sort of like that type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
By the
And
way, I
so,
was rewatching that one scene, and Robbie Benson is hilarious in that because he's supposed to be like the
oh,
flight attendant, right?
yeah.
He's supposed to be the steward. I think they call it the flight. Like, what do they call them? Are they called flight
Flight
attendants?
attendant? Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah. So, because they're hitting turbulence, and he's falling all over the place and
So
everything.
good.
It was pretty funny, like in all his different roles. I was going to mention another reference, and I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's called Click, and it's terrible. Like, it's really, really bad.
Wait,
But
I'm sorry. Are we talking about Click, the Adam Sandler movie?
yes,
You think Click is bad?
I thought it was really bad. But it has some very interesting concepts in it.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Sorry if I'm
I
insulting
mean,
you.
I was when I was a teenager when it came out, I remember sobbing during that movie.
Really?
I thought it was
I watched it with my kids. Like, my son wanted to watch it, and it's basically It's a Wonderful Life, I think, right?
Yeah.
But it has it has a bit of a horror element. And what's
in the
interesting is that
Beyond,
Christopher Walken is in it.
Yeah.
And so this is what made me think, it reminded me of Severance. So there's so he has this remote control that he's given by Christopher Walken, the Adam Sandler character. And he's able to basically fast forward through things he finds really boring. So, like, I don't know, like having to do work, for instance. Like, I can't remember what he does for a living, but he's like, oh my God, I got to put this proposal together, and it's super boring. So he fast forward it, but then he starts finding himself like fast forwarding through everything, like through sex, through, like, I don't know, all these different things.
Everything,
his whole life. And then, so he doesn't realize that if he does it once, it's going to continue to happen. So if he fast forwards through sex one time, like, I don't feel like doing it, I'm tired. It'll fast forward through every time he is supposed to have sex. So he doesn't get to enjoy all these moments in life. And it kind of reminded me of Severance in that way. So it's like, okay, so let's say you decide to sever all of these experiences. Like, so you sever flying, I went to the dentist today. So you sever going to the dentist, you sever having a baby, which, to some women is one of the most beautiful experiences. I've had 2 children.
Yeah.
So the idea that you would sever some of these major milestones in your life, let's say, and not so major milestones, will you still be the same person you are? Because doesn't that make the person that you are through those experiences? Like, say, for instance, you go to university and you have to study for your exams. You may not use everything, but, sometimes even now I still kind of, I remember that one thing I learned in school, and I do use it. So what do you think about that idea? First, I'm sorry I trashed your movie that you liked, that you watched when you were a teenager.
That's okay. I'm devastated. I'll never recover from that.
Bill Chill gives it a 7 out of 10. There you go.
Hey, Bill.
It's mid. Is it mid? Is that what the kids say? It's mid.
Mid. Yeah.
I would give it like a 5 or 6. It wasn't a complete waste of time, but it was interesting concepts.
How long ago did you watch it?
Like a month ago, like not that long ago.
Yeah. That was your first time watching it?
My first time watching it, yes.
Okay,
I love Adam Sandler. Like, I'm a big Adam Sandler fan. So I just didn't think it was as good as many of his other movies.
I truly think that it is probably pretty mid. I think at the time it was just it was wonderful to me. But it's probably one that I don't want to rewatch, simply because, like Bill says, definitely not rewatch worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that right now. I adore that movie. If I rewatch it now, and I have a different perspective of life, and I now see the issues in, like, production and the ridiculous story, and Adam Sandler as a character sometimes. I don't want to taint the image that I have. But severing for, okay, so I talk about this idea of like, they could be severing for suffering, like everything that you could suffer through in life, like dentals, plane, childbirth, all the things that have some anxiety given to you, and that you could want to avoid. My thoughts there are that you are absolutely right. Like, those things make you who you are. They help you grow as a person. I feel like an integral part of the human experience is, like, overcoming things, and that helps us not just be completely complacent in life to where we need to fast forward through life, as in the movie Click. And yeah, I just I think that if they are severing for like every reason you could, that the people, like, the narrative will be that childbirth is bad, that childbirth is like that the thing that somebody feared, somebody said we need to sever for that, and then it became everybody does it, and then nobody gets to ever have a positive experience about childbirth, because it's just we're skipping through it, and then we're skipping through it on a societal level, because I think that is where Lumen's goals actually are. I think it's bad. I think you should not, like, sometimes life is hard, but
Yeah.
those
Well, I
moments help
think
you appreciate the good times.
I don't know that this is the lesson, and certainly I don't even know if the showrunners know what the lesson is. Maybe there's no lesson, but at
True.
the lesson, at least, or the moral at the end of Click, is that yeah, that it basically, he went through his life, didn't get to experience all these things, and by the end he's an old man, and he didn't arrive at where he thought he was going to arrive. Like, he lost
Yeah.
so many years, he didn't have these relationships with his children, and so he missed out. It was kind of like it's a wonderful life. Like, he
Yeah.
had all of these terrible things happening, but then at the same time he had all these friends and people who cared about him and loved him, and so when he realized that, then he was actually happy. And
I think I think that, like, as you describe Click and It's a Wonderful Life, I'm kind of realizing how influential the book, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, that was referenced in the show. It kind of seems like that's everything. um you have to.
and who's reading that book in
I'm
the
sorry.
show? Who reads that
Oh,
book in the show?
Gemma
Oh, Gemma's
references
reading
that
it. That's
book
right.
when she's a professor. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the book about? I did see
Yeah.
something about it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, so it is a novella. You can listen to it for free on YouTube. It's about 3 hours, 4 hours long, somewhere between there. And it is about a man who is dying. And the book starts with basically the aftermath of his death. And, it focuses on these, like, his professional relationships. He was like a renowned, a judge of great renown. And he learns that he's dying, and then he just realizes that all his entire life that he is dedicated to a career, and like upping his social status, and like the artificial things that aren't like love and truly knowing the people around you and focusing on them. It's leading to him being in a deathbed alone and feeling like the entire weight of the world and reality and life is now crashing down on him, as he realizes that he did it wrong. That, like, if he could do it again, he would have he would have gotten more spiritual. He would have really got in touch with the like he has a servant, who, like, was the only person who was in his life at that moment who wasn't treating him like the problem, or like they use an analogy of a fart in a room. Like, it's just he's a sour stain in their lives, and they just can't wait for him to die. And it's not
Oh,
because they're like mean, it's just because, like, he didn't do a good job of like fostering a relationship in which like people could love him. And so they don't. Like, I mean, they do, and I'm sure that they believe that they do. But it's just waiting for you to go. And instead of like how the servant treats him, as like he massages his feet, he goes above and beyond, and gives this dying man the time of day when nobody else does.
wow, that's yeah, and again, that sounds similar to, uh uh is it I was going to say A Christmas Carol, or
Yeah,
any,
yeah.
or It's a Wonderful Life, or any of those sort of, and of course in Click, like, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but he is the remote control was given to him by, like, Christopher Walken, so you can kind of imagine what kind of character he was. So
Oh, so
it's
good.
not, you have to be careful who you're who you're accepting things from.
I want to.
Um,
I need to get some clips from Click and incorporate that into the next
you
Severance video or
should.
something. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, All right. So what were your thoughts first off? Like, I guess we could talk on this episode. What were your thoughts on like there, this episode was a little bit controversial. I was sort of
Yeah.
surprised at the reaction that viewers had to the ending, for instance. Like what was your feeling after the end of the season? What did you think of it?
I think that it did a great job of making people aware that any Mark is an individual. He understood that Gemma was a person, and he did what he wanted. He did the good thing. He gave her a chance to exist without killing himself, because he couldn't trust that the other version of him would follow through. And I think that the tape scene where they record messages back and forth, I think it does a great job of showing us that like Audi Mark is not the most trustworthy individual. And like that's not even to say in a judgmental way, because I mean, if my wife died, I drank myself into a moment in which I needed to not exist for 8 hours a day to keep surviving. And I like, who knows what I would do. I don't think I would ever give up agency over my body again, because I got my wife back. I got my life back. I got the girl who made the entirety of the outside world have light. And then after she was gone, it was just a dark winter wonderland, or a tundra. Like, yeah. I don't think he would follow through. And
Agree.
yeah.
Yeah. And now, so you did. Now, the other thing, like, it's funny, I was watching Apple put out a behind the scenes of the editing and everything
Hmm.
of the show, which it was technically like a commercial in a way, like for Apple, but
Mhm.
they were showing that it's an Apple show, and
Mhm.
they were showing that they used Apple computers and so on to add it on, which I don't think is crazy because my husband uses Apple products. But
Okay.
one of the things that they said, and I thought this was interesting. So Gemma, had Mark not gotten Gemma out of there, the idea was that we've been told is she would have been killed. And some people have said, would that mean that they would have killed her innies, and then and
Mm.
her Audi would have lived? Or would they would have had to have removed the chip from her, and there maybe that would have killed her? And based on watching the like the behind the scenes of the editing, it sounded like they were really going to kill her at the end of that test.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on all of that? Because that's pretty horrifying. That's what we're moving. We're kind of moving in a bit to horror territory with the show at times, at least
Yeah.
in the tone.
I think that Irving was investigating some disappearances. They linked him to Lumon. We thought that Lumon killed Gemma.
Yeah.
We still don't know. I do wish that we got some confirmation about how Gemma came to exist down there, and
Yes.
maybe the larger theories that I have about like immortality and stuff like that are, and it being a fidelity test, are the reason that is excluded, because it needs to be later, right? Like if in the finale they told us that it was that she died and was recreated, it would be much more clear. It would demystify a lot of things. So I think it's possible that they would kill her. I think that identity is also a big part of this show, and who her is could mean a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
so if they decide that it is just the concept of killing her in terms of like the person that she maybe even that she thinks that she is herself, like the death of that individual for like a clean slate to exist, and maybe her body continues. I think that is possible. I think there's a lot of ways you could write that in a cool identity as a concept kind of
Hmm.
way. But they
There
also
was
could just take her out back and old yeller her. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
exactly. There was a scene where she was running into the elevator, and then like Robbie Benson just, didn't quite make it. And he's like, did he
You,
say something like they're
you're
all
gonna
gonna
kill.
die?
They're all gonna die. Yeah,
They're all
yeah,
gonna die. But we could take that meaning that all of her innies will die, right?
yep. I
Is that how
I
you took
full.
that?
I think so. I feel like that is the most straightforward thing. Um, like, yeah, I think that it is all the different versions of her that this doctor that has grown some kind of unhealthy infatuation with is worried about losing. He is upset and saying that all of his progress and all of the different versions of her are going to die. Um, but I also feel like it might be more because it is straightforward. Like I always have like that little asterisk next to stuff like that because it's like I don't know. You could equally be overthinking it or absolutely falling for like the obvious thing. But right now,
Yeah.
my thought is that it's the different versions of her.
Well, it was funny because I was mentioning we had Tony Teflon, and some of the theories were coming up, but they were ridiculous. Like I was
Love it,
joking,
love it.
saying, well, maybe the board are aliens. Like you never know, right?
You
And
never
and
know.
and this is the thing because we are in this little bubble. We don't really know what's going outside of this world. We don't really see media. Like we don't really get
Yeah,
any media. And it's kind of like watching The White Lotus right now. I don't know if you're watching that show
I am
in
not. I've heard
season
so many good
3.
things.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you that it's really good because then if you watch it and you don't enjoy it. But there's in season 3, they're in Thailand and they're kind of in a bubble, like because a
Mm,
lot of the characters have taken their cell phones and thrown them into bags, and then the hotel staff have it. So you're kind of cut off from the outside world. So I sort of feel like with this, like we don't like, for instance, in the last stream we were talking about, there's been all this speculation. Could Helly be pregnant? Well, I'm like,
oh
we
yeah,
don't really know what birth control is like. Like someone was saying, maybe they put it in the water, or like,
yeah,
we don't, like they do in Silo. We don't really know. So that's why it's sort of a lot of the stuff is, I think a lot of the fans don't have all the answers or can't figure out the answers because we don't know what the rules are for this
yeah.
world, right?
Yep, yep. I think
And it's
that
like an onion. As you're unpeeling the onion, then you're like, oh, that's what was
ooh,
going
that could
on
be
there.
yeah.
So
Now it makes sense. I think
yeah.
that honestly, I feel that way about Miss Cobell. Like a lot of the
Mhm.
weird stuff that she was doing in season 1, like the lactation fraud thing. Her as like this inventor of Severance, who is just kind of like socially crippled because of her upbringing, it now makes a lot more sense. Like even her just like throwing the mug like in an office space would just like never be acceptable. Um, but then we see like the culture that she grew up in, and then like after that immediately she's like, I gave that to you because I knew you could handle it. It's like, no, you can't throw things at me at work.
Mhm.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
no.
Again,
um
the innies, like it's interesting. So the innies, they may not know what the equator is. They may not have
oh
but
yes,
they seem to have some understanding of right and wrong.
yeah.
They
And
seem to
Delaware, they know
have
what Delaware is.
they know what Delaware is. They seem to have some basic knowledge. Like yeah, Ben Stiller was talking about this. Like so, for instance, the love scene between Helena and Mark, and then later Helly and Mark. Like he said, they would be like kind of like teenagers. They wouldn't really, but
Yeah,
maybe by instinct they would sort of figure out what to do. But they seem to have, like they know how to read and write. They have
yeah.
some understanding of I don't know, some things that they do carry over. So it's almost like I wonder if the chip only really erases certain parts of your motor skills. Like you know how to
Yeah,
open up a door, you know how to you have motor functions, that type of thing. So I do wonder how that whole thing works
I
because you
I
do have
totally
some abilities.
I think that in season 1 I was kind of fascinated by that idea, in terms of like what they're allowed to know, because yeah, they all know language, they all know
Yeah.
basic manners.
Mhm.
They have some societal conditioning that makes them go to their stay clothed and not jerk off at their desk every day. Like you exist inside of that bubble. At some point, like you having just a completely blank slate would lead to so many different things, as like you are that entity now existing again and exploring everything, that comes with like the human condition. Yeah, so like there are certain things that they're allowed to know, and then all of the other states are not one of them for some reason. But I think that I remember reading on Reddit. There was a lot of different theories about like where the chip was placed. Like it was like your pineal gland or like some other part that, and then people like tried to apply science to like what memories were switching and how it worked in short term and long term memories. I don't think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be, I don't think they'll ever explain it, because if they do, then they will have people on the internet that are experts of their field, and, and just have to hold them to, oh, actually, the pineal gland controls X, Y, and Z. If they don't explain it, then it is simply a mysterious little thing. And, it doesn't need to make sense. Sometimes they're allowed to know, and then, and then they can switch it or play with it.
I
Yeah.
agree. Well, and I think it's sort of, obviously the author, the writer, the showrunner, he's not, he doesn't have a medical background. He's sort of doing like a what if scenario. Because I was thinking like a movie like The Martian was actually written by somebody who I think
Yeah.
has an
Andy Weir.
a physicist background or something. So in this case, we have to sort of just like accept the tech, I think, in some ways. We just sort of have to accept it and know that it's part of this bigger story. It's not necessarily like we need to get into the granular too much about it. I personally, I don't know about you, but I personally just sort of accepted it. I was like, this is an interesting concept.
It's sci-fi. It's fantasy.
Sci-fi. It's speculative,
Yep.
kind of like Westworld, in that same way. Like for now I have another analogy, and this is just because after I watched the season finale, just given the amazing visuals that are in this show. And when I did one of my Westworld breakdowns, I compared the visuals of Westworld, which again, I feel there's a lot of similarities between Westworld and this show. But I kind of compared Westworld to this movie called The Island, which is a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
And it's actually very good. I don't want to give too much away, but again, there are people who are living underground who have they're a clone, and then they have a human version of themselves outside in the real world. So Ewan McGregor, for instance, is the main character. So on the inside, he is a clone, and Sean Bean is like sort of the main, evil dude. And then on the outside world, you have the human person who is actually paid for the clone, should they ever need an organ or, some kind of life-saving,
Okay.
So, but so the innies or the clones, again, have no idea what's going on. They're living in this underground world. It's very Logan's Run, it's very like, they're like a utopia.
Yeah.
And they have no idea until, of course, something happens.
Until the Grim Reaper comes and steals your liver.
Yes. Yeah. So there's an inciting incident, and then, all hell breaks loose. So that kind of reminded me as well, because here, you have these people who are there basically to be harvested. They're not worth anything except for they're valuable in the sense that the billionaires, let's say, who have paid for them are valuable. So for instance, there's an example where a woman doesn't want to have a baby. So what does she do? She has her clone have the baby.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's bonkers.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
Yes, The Island. Yes. Thank you. So again, when I saw this show, I was like, oh my God, like this reminded me so much of The Island. Scarlett Johansson's in it too, and she looks really hot in it. Nice. And then there's a scene where Gemma's she's in the lab, not when she's wearing the costumes, when she goes into each of the testing rooms, but when she's in her own sort of natural room. Her outfit totally reminds me of the outfits. There's that sort of typical sci-fi workout wear. You got like a onesie kind of, and it's very sort of sci-fi looking. Definitely, again, The Island. So, I was just like, oh my God, there's so many amazing. Now, I don't know if Ben Stiller, I know he's a huge fan. He's a cinephile, but I know that he sort of went, he looked back on some cinema de verite, and he's looked at 1970s French film and that type of thing. So I know that they've gone and looked at some of these older pieces, but I couldn't help but think some of these more modern movies might have been have been inspiring Severance to at least a certain extent. Bill gives The Island an 8 out of 10.
Hey.
So that's pretty good. Actually, I highly recommend it. It's Michael Bay, so it's an action-adventure movie, but it's actually got a very incredible and a really good cast. Like, it's got Sean Bean's in it.
Nice.
you know.
As soon as you said the organ thing,
Yeah.
I knew what you were talking about. I've
Mm.
never seen that movie, but I have it pulled up on a tab here next to White
Yeah,
Lotus.
it's I was like, wow, because I've always been sort of, fascinated by people having their organs stolen or people having
Oh,
to sell their organs.
absolutely,
I'm always
100%.
like, there's like Repo Man or any of the like I've always been like super fascinated. Like I just saw this Korean horror show where basically it was like them selling organs, like they're basically taking people and like auctioning off their organs like alive, like on a cell phone. Like, so that kind of stuff has always like completely horrified me.
It is.
uh
It's too real. Like
it's too real.
it is too real. Like I fear. I mean, no one wants my liver. And I'm living the lifestyle I am, so I don't get harvested for organs. Okay, that's mom. If you're watching, all right. Um, but yeah, something about that is terrifying. Um,
It is.
it
It's
makes
kind
me
of
want
primal, I think. It's sort of a
yeah,
primitive, primal fear that we have. Like I don't mind like things like zombies and stuff never bother me, but
yeah.
there's two things that really terrify me. One is cannibalism, and then
Mm,
in like when I'm watching a show, and then the other one is organ harvesting. So,
yeah,
um,
especially if it's clones. Like
oh yeah.
the clone concept of you just existing so that the real version of you could have an extra arm if they lose their arm in a accident. That could be happening right now.
Hmm. Well,
No clue.
well, there are already people who are selling their organs, like in third world
Oh yeah,
nations.
yeah,
So that's what's, things that they can still live without,
yeah.
like, a kidney or something. But there's some things you can't live without. So that's what's, you know. Now I was wanting to maybe talk a little bit about some of the characters.
Ooh.
Do you have a favorite character in the show?
My favorite character is Dylan.
Yes, a lot of people love Dylan.
Dylan's the dude. He is the voice of reason. He is comedic relief. Knowing that his Audi was just like kind of like I don't think his Audi is a bad dude. He's just complacent.
Hmm.
I think that especially in marriage and life with a partner, there's a point in which you do get complacent. And I think that's what we're seeing. And if the story of like Ivan Ilyich and all of that is really impactful for the long term, and like recreating people because like them so deeply is a part of it, which is a big theory of mine. That he is inattentive for a reason. It's showing us that like it's bad to be like that. That we need to harbor those relationships. I'm getting off point. My favorite character is Dylan,
Hmm.
and yeah, him cussing ever, love, love,
Yeah.
love, love. Don't know why.
I have to say though, I mean, like I don't feel completely that there's a disconnect between his innie and his outie. Like when he went for that
Oh yeah,
job interview at the Doors Company, I thought was one of the funniest things
yep,
ever.
yep.
And I thought it was weird because my mom used to work for a door company.
No way.
And yeah, she did. And it was weird because when I did my breakdown of Severance, there's a lot of IBM inspiration happening with the
Mm,
show. Like Big Blue was the name of IBM, and
hmm.
a lot of the furniture that's used in the show is very similar to what the offices look like at IBM.
That's
But
cool.
so I commented that my mom worked at IBM and she actually had to leave because she got pregnant, and because at the time pregnant women weren't allowed to work at IBM. But technically
I'm sorry,
speaking,
like in across all companies or specifically IBM just said I hate
specifically
pregnant women.
IBM, yeah.
That's
So you could
crazy.
be married, but you couldn't have a baby if you were or you couldn't be pregnant and work there. I think you might have been able to come back later. So, this would have been the 60s or something, right?
Yeah.
So then I thought that was funny that there was that correlation with my mom. And then when I watched the scene with the Doors Company, because my mom worked for an exterior door company,
Oh my
like the,
god.
the the storm doors that you make, and
Oh yeah.
Stanley doors.
Nice.
So I thought that was so funny. It was a family run business. And I just so when he said, what is your favorite door? And he said, well, it'd have to be the pocket door.
The pocket
I
door.
like almost fell off the couch laughing. I just thought that was so funny. So,
So good.
as Dylan said, about the book that it slaps. That scene
Oh
for me.
yeah.
So I could see sort of hints of, as Gretchen was saying, what he used to be like, right?
Yeah. Yep.
She said he used to be more like the Dylan, the Innie Dylan. So we know that and I think maybe the Innie Mark is maybe more like the happy-go-lucky Mark that we knew in the flashbacks when he was a
Ooh.
professor. So maybe, that's,
Yeah, also, I kind of like where you're going there. If I could extrapolate a little more,
sure.
I wonder if maybe that's going to be a big point in the show where, life happens. Like everybody kind of starts out as this idealized version of themselves with like a chip on their shoulder or something to prove, a can-do attitude. And then, life and work happens and you realize like, I still got to clock in. Even if I feel bad, I still have to be here. And, there is absolutely a different version. Like me, my first real tech job was at Cisco Systems. That job took the passion out of me. Young man Chris was a different go-getter. And then I realized I was the least paid employee, closing the most amount of tickets, working my ass off while everybody else slept at their desks. And I realized that I was doing the wrong thing. Like life.
Well,
Life
and that's
happens.
kind of what happened with Dan Erickson, the showrunner, that this is how he got this idea. He was working in one of those dead end jobs. Like even Ben Stiller was saying,
it was a door company, right?
it might have been a door company.
Okay.
Well, Ben Stiller said that after he got the draft that he was still like, I don't know, doing DoorDash or something. Like he was still doing the grind until like he got the show. And
dude,
so
how do you get a script to Ben Stiller? How do you get a script to Ben Stiller?
I don't know.
Chat GPT.
I don't know.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. But I don't know if I have a favorite character. One of the characters I find really interesting is Irving, and he sort of is just gone off into the sunset. It looked like he was on a Westworld train, by the way. He was on the train.
100%.
He was on the Westworld train out of town.
Yep.
Out of Sweetwater.
So I with the trains, I think that the trains are big. I think that there is a reason that the train was used. I think the trains move on horizontal tracks and elevators move on vertical tracks. And it would be kind of crazy to me if that isn't kind of shaping, Lumon's goals, as if like you are one version of yourself, because they also prove in the last couple episodes that geographically you can sever, not just in the singular building. You could have Keir Irving, and then once you get outside of that, where like wherever Bert sent him, it could be a different a different Irving.
So it was a door factory.
Yes. Okay. Ray Death Ray.
Oh my
also,
God. My mom, like she did customer service and she worked there for years, but you know what? Yeah. It was a family run business and she loved it. Like the staff there were amazing. It was like she loved it. It was like her first job after my mom and dad split up. And so they were like a welcoming family,
Oh, I love
but
that.
I could see how it could be like mind numbing.
It's all about the people. The job I'm at right now, it is my favorite job ever. I love the people that I work with. I love what I do. And
that's awesome.
It's the biggest hurdle for me being a content creator full time, because I feel like I'm a valued employee. They treat me well. I enjoy the people. I feel like I have a voice. And if that was my first job, I probably still would be that idealized version of Chris going into the workforce. Which, maybe that's where Severance is heading. Maybe like there is some kind of point in creating also safe, but like workplaces that are, beneficial to more than just the bottom line.
Yeah. Bill says the trains probably lead to dangerous territory.
Ooh. I think so. I think that someone talked about online at one point this like concept of rival severance companies, as like,
yes,
it's there's like Chat GPT comes out, and then now there are like 30 different LLM, doing the exact same thing or different revisions of that, with all varying capabilities. I think that Severance existing in that world, and in this being a show about like these grand ideas happening inside of corporations, I think that like corporate espionage also was talked about in the Lexington letter. I think that like corporate espionage could be happening. I think that identity or IP theft and stuff like that could be happening. Also, I think it will 100% happen, as right now we have issues with that in a big way, because how do you enforce that across countries? Like we don't have the ability to hold China to any reasonable degree if they decide to steal, like say IBM or any
Mhm.
other US company comes up with a software. We have no way to stop China from reverse engineering that, and then they have a singular company that's also state supported, and then all of a sudden that exact same thing works and operates in the exact same way in China. It's completely stolen, but we would have to have some serious talks that nobody's having to figure that out. And so yeah, like we know of like the English speaking countries in this world have Severance, but who knows what China looks like in that world right now, and if they have different stuff like that, or different stuff like Severance in different capacities.
Yeah, it's hard to know because again, like the world is so small, we don't know the world. And I do feel kind of in the same way that I mentioned with Westworld, we are there with the innies. So as they are learning more, then we learn more. And
Yeah.
now my understanding is the showrunners have got an endpoint, so they do kind of know where this is going to go. But so it's not like they're kind of making it up as they go along. And
Yeah.
hopefully they don't. But now, what do you think about? Do you have any like in terms of how you feel about the season as a whole? Do you have like do you have any favorite episodes? Do you have any sort of thoughts on how this season worked together? Like, did you get to go back or maybe you haven't had time yet to go back and watch it? Are you thinking of doing that and watching it as a whole? Because I was thinking it might be kind of interesting to do that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then I'll have a second question of how do you
Yeah.
feel about watching this show week to week versus how they sometimes just do a big dump online and
Yeah.
those two
So
sort of things.
so first question,
Yeah.
I think my favorite episode is um
Is it the one the flashbacks or the with
yes,
when Mark
thank
and
you.
Gemma
Yes,
meet?
that is
By the
my
way,
favorite episode.
I have to do a shout out because the director cinematographer is she's French Canadian.
Oh,
And so as a Canadian, I'm always really thrilled to see a French Canadian or a Canadian.
yeah.
And I do wonder if she knows Denis Villeneuve, who is a wonderful
Oh,
French Canadian director who, of course, did Dune. So
yeah.
I have to look that up. But anyway, so
Very
yes, go
cool.
ahead about
Yeah.
that episode.
Yeah, honestly, that episode was spectacular. Right before that, my video, I did this whole dream time dilation little rant that I I just thought was funny for myself. I don't know. And then the episode shows like these like flashbacks, and like there's a cool, they use different film that has like all these little film burn effects and stuff. So the entire time I was just infatuated and just like um waiting for some like big moment that confirmed it was all a dream, or like flashbacks, or something like that. And it it was just great. Just seeing him wake up at the end with like the light on his face, his sister like worried as can be, and then the final thing we see is like Gemma going through the last indexes of a library. Yeah, it's just so cool. Like,
Hmm.
and it also showed that like, it just showed the world before Gemma was gone, and how
Hmm.
bright everything was. Um, we got to see like the moments with them as a couple, sorry, Rickon and Devin, and
Oh, yes, that was
like
great.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about that episode just
Mhm.
really got me. And also, I think that there is much more happening also in terms of like identity and a possible fidelity test with those film burn effects as the finale of the episode. Because my thought and theory with that is that it is those film burn effects are showing memories, and
Mhm.
as if it was a film memory and you could recall it. Also, in that episode, there's a single frame of a film burn that literally looks like a little, like a reel, like a tiny little single thing of
Oh,
a reel.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I fully believe that the finale ends in the way it does with with a similar, I'm sorry, the exact same film burn effect, for a reason. And I think in a few
Mm.
seasons, that reason will show that it is something that could be watched or replicated or,
Now
brought back to.
now what you're mentioning makes me think, do you think those memories are Mark's memories or Gemma's memories, or do you think it's a collection of the 2, like, combined? Because I'm just thinking that now that you're mentioning it.
I think it is about two people coming together. I think it is about relationships, and I think that if you are able, like, Mr. Milchick has a thing on his desk called the duck goose idol,
Yes.
right? And it's like it
Mhm.
shows, like, you look at it one way and it's a goose, and I'm sorry, a duck rabbit. You look at it one way and it's a rabbit. You look at it the other way, it's a goose. And I think that the purpose of that is also retrospectively going to be clear that it is about two people's perspectives creating a full picture. Like, if it was just about Mark recreating Gemma through his memories of Gemma and how, like, intimately he knew her, there would still be something missing, because, like, as much as we can connect, nobody will ever actually know who is inside of our own heads. It is something that we will only ever know, and we can do our best to, give that to the world and be our true authentic selves. But at the end of the day, it's us imagining the rest of the world in a way that we can see and process and talk to each other. And I think that the memories are of both of them. Like, there was a moment in the season where I really thought that, like, Mark could have a larval brain pregnancy thing going on, as he has, like, this hole in his head, and there was a bunch of, like, little nods to pregnancy. Also,
Mhm.
Ragabi was like, it's coming, wait, keep pushing, or something like that, or maybe she doesn't say keep pushing, but yeah, it was just like, really had this idea that Mark could have more than one being inside of him. And I think it's Gemma. I think that it is that through this and whatever they're doing, they could theoretically, give birth to a new Gemma, or bring
Mhm.
themselves back in some kind of capacity. Um,
Yeah, because the
and yeah,
fandom, a lot of people are thinking there's a literal pregnancy,
yeah, yeah,
but, it
yeah,
having a child isn't necessarily always, or, like, giving birth to something isn't always like a baby. It sometimes can be
yeah,
birth to an idea, birth to something new, or what have you.
yeah.
Um, no, I just find it so interesting, and one of the things I was just thinking about when you were talking about that episode is all at this, while we're having this beautiful love story being told to us, at the same time, there's all these little, like, hints of the um, how sinister Lumen is. So,
Mm.
for instance, when I didn't know this until other people pointed this out. By the way, I didn't come up with this on my
Like
own.
the blood draw,
The blood draw, yeah.
and then the fertility treatment.
And then the fertility clinic. And then
Yep.
people, of course, noticed that the doctor, I keep calling him Robbie Benson because I grew up with Robbie Benson and he was the
Nice.
Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Was he really?
He was, yeah,
Nice,
like in the
nice.
animated one. Yeah, the original.
Oh, wow.
He had, yeah. And by the way, he has the most gorgeous eyes. Like,
Oh, yeah.
does he not have, like, they're so icy blue. They look so amazing.
Yes, they do.
Um,
In this role, he
mhm.
absolutely gave me the creeps. Like, there was something about him that,
Yes.
like, you knew that the camera angles were meant to make him not look like a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he is actually very attractive. He's
yes, yeah.
actually very, but it was funny because when I had Pete Peppers on, this cracked me right up. So, the scene where he goes to get the dental instruments,
Mhm.
and you can't see him though, because he's just like, behind that sort of shelf the whole time and
Yeah,
like you hear him singing and whistling
uh-huh.
the song. Um,
Edmund
and then,
Fitzgerald.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Who's another Canadian, um, Gordon Lightfoot. But we were saying, wouldn't it be hilarious if they had hired Robbie Benson to do that role, and that's all we would have seen of him?
Oh my God.
Like, they could have had an extra or something, but they hired a fairly well-known actor to play that role, and then that would be it.
I
That
I
would have been so
actually
meta.
I really hope they do stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be so funny. Well, there was actually there's been a lot of press around Severance since the episode aired,
Yeah.
and they're not giving a lot of information away, but one thing that was touched on is, would Ben Stiller perhaps have a walk-on role in season 3? So that would be kind of
Oh,
cool.
let me tell you, I hope the entire thing ends and Ben Stiller's the board. I hope that like the man behind the
Not the
curtain.
goats.
No, I hope
The
Ben
goats would
Stiller's
be
the
the board.
goats. I hope Ben Stiller
That would be so funny.
voices a goat or something. Yeah. I just want Ben Stiller to be the ultimate comic relief of this funny thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, he did apparently help to operate the animatronic that was Kier Egan.
What do you mean by that? Like he controlled it or was inside of
He
it?
controlled it by remote control, I guess, and then another
Interesting.
actor did the voice. Speaking
Ah,
of, by
ah.
the way, I mentioned to Hacks before we started that Kira is actually on the wall in between us, like just this tiny little, like, you pinch his head. I pinch your head. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Praise Kier, by the way.
Praise Gear.
So, what about Cobell? Like, what do you think happened
Hmm.
to her at the end? Like, she had a very well, she was kind of there at the beginning, then she disappeared for a while, and then she had this really crazy episode, which a lot of people did not like that episode.
I know. I have no idea
Uh,
why.
I really enjoyed it. No, it was
I
not a feel good episode. It was a
yeah.
terrible feel bad. I call it a feel bad episode, but it was so interesting and fascinating, and she was brilliant in it.
Yep.
There was funny because somebody on Reddit posted a picture. They found a white rabbit just parked like in a I don't know, like in the middle of nowhere or something. And I said, "Oh, if that was me, I would like get a toothbrush and my camera and take pictures of myself brushing my teeth outside the white rabbit." Right?
I have tried. I've looked out for that car everywhere. Like
Yeah,
I want
it's
to
from
see it in the real world.
Well, my brother used to have so many Volkswagens. He had the
Mm,
Volkswagen Fox. He had like so many. I don't know if he had a rabbit. I have to ask him, but it was definitely not a white one, and that's like a hatchback style, I
yeah.
think. But it's just like her character. It's funny. I've never been a huge fan of Rosanna. Or is it Rosanna? Sorry, Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette, yeah.
I've never been like there's nothing I've ever seen of hers that I'm like, wow, she nailed it.
Yeah.
But she's amazing in this.
Yep.
She's so good. And people are like, is it wrong for me to say that she's sexy? And I'm like, no, it's
No,
great that
no,
I think
yeah,
she's totally sexy and
she
hot in
is.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's giving middle-aged sexiness.
100%. I'm glad that yeah, she got some action, got to kiss
Totally.
an old boyfriend.
Yeah. I mean, it was over some
Some ether. Yeah.
Never tried the stuff myself.
Oh, let
I
me
have
tell
to
you.
say.
I'm just
Never done any huffing. But I heard, well, I don't know. I don't even know if you can get ether, to be honest with you. I think when they
So-
huff, usually it's some other chemicals.
Yeah, usually I think people huff actually I have no idea. Honestly,
Methyl hydrate
yeah.
or glue.
Yeah, I was thinking glue. That glue was on my mind.
Glue is the one. Yeah.
Or markers or
Markers.
also aerosol. Aerosol, I think you can huff.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Aerosol. Because I mean, we have a bit of a problem with that up in Canada. We have
Really?
Yeah, we have some communities that are into huffing. So it's terrible. It's usually marginalized communities, and it's sort of the lowest, like, because it's cheaper, right? It's cheap. It's a cheap high, and so compared to alcohol or something like that, which is probably
I remember at one point, I grew up in the country, poor boy, and at one point, at the local Home Depot, all of the spray cans were suddenly locked up, and you had to get permission to open and buy spray cans. And it was because people were kids, teenagers at my school were huffing them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that would be like because it would be like I think ether probably wouldn't be that bad because it has been used, in medical for medical use, but I think you
Oh,
probably
so
would have a bad headache.
it's, I mean, it's bad. It can, yeah,
Mm.
like it is, I mean, there's a whole, ether is really interesting because there is no true creator of it. It's something that you could find like different recipes and different variations of, like through individual cultures before everybody came together and knew each other. And so like it dates back to truly ancient times.
Wow,
um
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Well,
and
sweet vitriol is the old-fashioned name for it, right? Which is the name of
is it
that
really?
episode. Well, that's what I read. Yeah. So the name of that episode was sweet vitriol, and that's like the old-fashioned name for what ether used to be called. But I
That
have
is
to tell you, when
great
I was
information.
thinking about it, it reminded me of, those movies, maybe from the 70s or 80s, where somebody is kidnapped and they would take like a handkerchief and put it on their face.
Chloroform,
That's
yeah.
what that was. It was ether to knock
Mm,
the person out so that they could abduct them, kind of thing. So I was thinking of like spy movies,
yeah,
that was, and then I knew that they did use it for surgery, like back in the,
yeah,
probably in World War II or something,
yeah. It's
World
honestly,
War One, maybe.
yeah. So the official story, like the official formula that we have now, it was, so like this man goes to college. His professor talks about this thing. He then, a few years go by, I believe. He is a dentist, I believe, and then he realizes that he can use this to, I don't think it knocked, or no, it did knock people out. And yeah, and then you could use it as that, and then he claimed credit for it. And then the
I
professor
think
that,
you have to use a lot, I think, to knock the person out. But and I
yeah,
guess if you use small amounts, like Cobell was using
yeah,
with her boyfriend, that it would just be enough to get you high. Or
yeah, yeah,
it was so sad because it's funny, when I watched that episode, I was like, this looks like it's shot in the Maritimes, and it was, right. It sure
yeah.
turned out it was shot in Newfoundland. And they, of course, it gets, because it's quite far north, they have shorter days than we would, like, even
Mm,
where I live in Toronto. So, just like the cinematography in that episode was just stunning. Um, and so, but a lot of people hated that episode. And I think it's because,
never
as I
understood.
mentioned, I think it's a feel bad episode. Like,
Yeah,
some of the earlier episodes are so funny, and, especially with Dylan, and you're just like cracking up. And like I said about that one interview he did at the door company. And of course, the guy looks like him. That was the other thing that just made
I
me laugh so hard.
I truly thought, because that was a part of the trailer
Yeah,
before the
yeah,
season
yeah.
started, I was like, they're doing some crazy stuff. This is
Yeah.
clearly an older version of Dylan who like
Yes.
has maxed out the incentives and now has like a coffee machine next to his like door thing. Yeah, that is just a
Yeah,
different
and that
person.
actor, he's pretty well-known comedian as well. Like, I think
Is he
but they
really?
just he is. I've seen him before in other movies, but I
Yeah,
think what was interesting is they groomed them the same way. They both had the
yeah,
beards and the
yeah,
hair, and then they both kind of dressed them the same as well. So it almost looked like a mirror image.
one
And
hundred
I just
percent.
thought it was, which again, like, there's a lot of mirror imaging going on, right? Like, do you remember the scene in the elevator with Milchek and Mark S?
Uh huh.
And a lot of people talk about there was a dividing
The
line
line
in
right
the
in the middle.
elevator, and then
Yeah,
he just kind of crossed over the line.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of that sort of that mirroring, I think, that went on visually. The show is so gorgeous to look at, right? It
They
really is.
it seems like they are just creative people, and
Mhm.
Apple is giving creative people money to make things, and they have time to make things. And yeah, it just seems like every word that is written, every scene that is created has so much depth that could be picked apart, and you could understand why the scenes appear the way they are, why they're lit the way they are. Actors are standing in certain areas and saying certain things, and everything has like double entendre. Um, even the crossing the line thing. There was a
Mhm.
when when Helena and Miss Cobell were standing in the parking lot. There are these like lights, like large lights that you would see in a parking lot. And yeah, it works the exact same way, where there's a light kind of right in between them, and she starts encroaching on it, and you could just see that there's a divide between those two people.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a really intense conversation, because once we sort of know about Bert and that he drove people places in that car. I mean, honestly, like when he was first off, when he was in the car, and he looked like a hitman, right? He really did.
100%.
Yeah. And then later he's in his home and he's wearing like a black turtleneck and he's sitting against the fire. He looked kind of like a demon.
Yes. Yeah. He looked like the big bad.
The big bad. Yeah. Now, but that's what I love about the show, because even the bads are kind of like, there's some, like Cobell, for instance, you're like, she's the bad, but then there's more nuance to her, or Milchek. Now Drummond, maybe, but I think he's kind of like your corporate goon.
I think he was an office manager.
I mean, he was hilarious, by the way, as well.
Yeah. Honestly, the paperclip, the big words.
Oh yeah. Someone was talking about his hair, and then actually someone made a meme of this, because he had the stun gun for the goat.
Oh,
and then I immediately thought of No Country for Old Men. Have you seen that movie?
I have.
And so I was immediately thinking of that terrible bowl cut that Javier Bardem has in the movie, and he's walking around. Now Jack says he has actually he has like more of a, I don't know, his is like very big, like it's sort of a larger one, I think, the one that he uses. Whereas they had that. Sorry, what's that?
The one that Drummond uses, or in Old Country?
The Drummond's is kind of a smaller one, because it's for the goats, but the Javier Bardem character in No Country for Old Men, his assassination tool is like a large one that they use for animals.
Yeah, that's I think it's a bolt gun.
A bolt gun, that's what it's called. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, those are terrifying. Like I did
absolutely.
I took a semester of, I think it was like it was something relating to
animal husbandry.
I don't think it was that. It was like it was when I was living in Bastrop, and it was like my 9th grade year. But it was a class just dedicated to, it was like an F2A or FFA kind of thing. It was like for like someone that wanted to be a rancher or something, which at the time was like, the closest thing I could do to like veterinary study. Also, it was that, like, a lot of people wanted to do that, where it doesn't matter. But in that, they show us that gun when it's just like a single use, cartridge, CO2 cartridge, put it in, put it to the animal's head, and just bolt into the skull, and the animal is done. Like, it is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. The amount of pressure that comes out of that thing, it will absolutely, like, it didn't have to hit his, a jugular. It could have killed him anywhere. Yeah.
There's another
terrifying
show that I watched where it's basically it's a thriller where there's this island of young people, and there's like some kind of weird cult that believes that there's aliens, and they want to basically have this island of young people to eventually, I don't know, I couldn't exactly figure it out. But what they do is they don't want anybody leaving the island. So if people look like they're going to leave, that's what they use as the tool. They take them out to this like sort of area, and then they use. So that was the second time I saw this this stun gun, or whatever. What do you call it again?
Bolt gun. I think
a bolt gun. So I mean, obviously, it was sort of like Chekhov's gun. If we saw it used on the lamb, there was a good chance it was going to get used on a human, and it was kind of interesting. That was actually pretty funny, though. Did you find that pretty funny, the way that Drummond went out?
100%. 100% so good. Like,
so good.
Of course, dude.
Yeah,
like,
and he's massive. And apparently, like, Mark Scott in real life got a concussion from that fight that they did. Did you hear that?
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I saw him in an interview, and he said he had a concussion while shooting the show. And so my thought was, I had seen the episode where Ragabi does the surgery on him, and then he's in the kitchen and he answers the door, and his sister comes in, and then of course he does a face plant. and hits his head on the ground.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh my God, he must have hit his head when he fell down, because you could actually hear his head hit the ground.
Oh yeah, that was a
Which
gruesome
was
scene.
yeah. But then
Yeah.
apparently it was in the scene when Drummond and him are fighting in the hall with Brienne of Tarth, which, by the way,
So good.
holy shit,
So
was
good.
she not amazing
So
in
good.
this finale?
I have a new girlfriend right now. Her name's Vanessa. She has
Oh,
never seen Game of Thrones.
oh my Lord.
I know.
What?
And we got to watch the finale together, and I told her, I was like, listen, this is what she was cast for. This is what we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
I just want to see her beat up big guys. That's it.
It was so good. Well,
Yeah.
someone was comparing it to The Bear and the Maiden Affair, but I kind of compared it to her fighting the Hound. Like, that's sort of
yeah.
what I thought,
Yeah.
you know, when
Yeah.
I saw that. But I love that she's in, like, the costumes, by the way. I love her. She wore sort of like a folklore. I kind of call it like a European folklore kind of outfit.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she had like a belt or a pendant with like two goats on it,
Did she really?
the goat herder.
I like that. It had big like midsummer vibes. When I was
Midsummer
yeah.
vibes. Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But
Also, I'm sorry. The
go
bolt
ahead. No,
gun,
go ahead. I'm talking too much here.
when she was standing there with the goat and he pulls out the goat in the bolt gun, there was a moment where I was really worried that she was about to be executed, like the actress, and
Oh.
then the goat was like like just there to witness or something. Like, it felt like it would be so crazy to just subvert expectations in that way.
Mhm.
As like, it's time to actually see Lumen be the big bad executing people, because it like fits into a spiritual cult religion thing that they created for business purposes.
Absolutely. I don't know that I was worried about that, because I could kind of see there was that vessel that looked
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
Emil was going to go into. By the way, it was Emil, not the cutest little goat ever. Like, he
the
was
best,
so darling.
the best.
Yeah, I don't think they had to do much acting. And then, because of course they were talking about in season 1 when, they happen upon that guy who is, feeding the goat. He's holding the goat and,
Oh
and
yeah,
feeding it with a bottle. And he goes, they're not ready yet. And then you kind of understand what he meant, right? They're not
yep.
ready yet. He probably thought they were coming to take one of the baby goats away. It would be so horrifying. But it did feel very pagan. It felt very midsummer,
Oh yeah.
it's like they're gonna put somebody in a giant bear costume, bear
Oh my
outfit. And
God, for real.
yeah. So, by the way, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's a movie.
I love Midsommar.
That is a trippy movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Actually, I feel like I should probably take an edible and watch it again, because I
Truly.
love that movie. I mean, I love Ari Aster. I think he's a wonderful director. So, but anyway, so it was so great to see Gwendolyn Christie in that role, and
We
I hope she
stand.
comes back next season. I don't know if her arc is done. Maybe she's done. I'm not sure, or
That's a
maybe
good
she'll be
point.
part of the Resistance.
I hope that we do see a resistance.
Me too.
Yeah, because I feel like if they did another microdata uprising kind of thing, and like Lumen just wants people to get back to work, I think we're past that, right? Like,
Mhm.
the band is now a part of an uprising. I'm assuming that like all of the Mammalians nurturable people are down for the cause.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see really what the future holds, because it doesn't seem like we're ever going to go back to the 9 to
Mhm.
5 now.
The other, and I know I keep comparing it to other shows, but the other thing I was thinking of, because just there's this scene where at the very end that Mark and Hallie, and I think the actress confirmed it is Hallie are running through the halls, and then they do that freeze frame on them, and they've got the red lights blowing.
So
It
cool.
reminded me, there's a scene in Logan's Run, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's with Michael York, and it's a dystopian world, and they're living in an underground city, so city of domes, and basically uh, you have to commit suicide when you hit 30, like to keep the population down. And so
Jesus.
anyone who doesn't agree to that is executed by the Sandmen. And so Michael York's character is a Sandman. But when he's put on an assignment, and they change the date of his, end of life or whatever.
Mhm.
So then he suddenly becomes a runner. And so because they're in these city of domes, there's not really many places to hide. So it sort of reminds me of that. I'm thinking, well, how big is the underground at Severance?
Yeah.
Because we don't know, because the building itself isn't that big, but the tunnels could go on forever. There might be multiple layers.
Yep.
We don't know. So I was thinking, I wonder if they will, if there's an uprising, they will try to hide within it. And that's sort of what they do in Logan's Run at the beginning, at any rate. And then eventually they leave the city, they get out. But then if Mark and Helly leave, for all intents and purposes, their chip would, it'd be interesting. Maybe there's a hat you could wear.
Ooh, okay. I like
Maybe there's
this.
a hat or a helmet you could wear
Yeah.
that your chip would stay intact, and you could just leave wearing this helmet. That would actually be pretty funny.
Hey, there was a moment in season 2
Yeah.
where Miss Wong is playing that instrument. Oh my goodness, what's the name of it?
Thurman.
Yeah, the theremin.
I
So
love that.
yeah, so funny.
She's a great character too, by the way.
She is. She gave me the creeps.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. But
But she's a teenager that's been raised in a cult, right? Like, so.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
She's absolved of anything. Yeah, I want her to see what Miss Cobell sees. Truly, I want her to have Miss Cobell's perspective and to run from that company or help take it down. And I think that the Faraday cage. So like
Yeah.
at one point,
Faraday cage. Yes.
yeah. So like the concept of the theremin, which I think it uses frequency to control tone or pitch. And so I had this thought that like it would be crazy if they were introducing the themin, because it would be a really neat way to like you could hack it in some kind of way to just basically create a hat that just pushes out those or just your room and just pushes out your like so many brainwave frequency things that it would not allow the remote signal to come in to that room, so that you could in theory never get the signal to switch again, assuming that it is a remote signal, which I think it is. Like the geographical thing is interesting to me, and the fact that like it's the room at their birthing retreat is the same switch as the one underground, from a security standpoint is terrible.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
so
I mean,
so dumb.
technically speaking, yeah, no, I know. That is a really interesting concept, because Cobell isn't severed, and neither is
Yeah.
Milchek. So, and I gather Natalie isn't either, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
I hope not.
but Bert he was fully severed, I believe,
Bert
because
was, oh yeah, yeah.
because of his believing that he could be absolved, which is, by
Mhm.
the way, isn't that such a crazy concept?
So cool. So cool. So smart.
Yeah,
Like
it is really smart.
it's so smart. I love it.
Mhm.
It feels like a really cool way to do like, religion that could exist with Severance, and also show how, Lumon got their little tendrils into religion in a big way. And then just completely rewrote how, it was that God accepted you no matter what. You just had to, just believe
Yeah.
in him and ask for forgiveness. And then it became, never mind. In fact, you have to sever so that there is some part of you that will continue to exist. That's
Mhm.
crazy.
One thing I have sort of thought about that I don't know that the show touches on. So, for instance, the brain is what's severed, but there are some schools of thought that think that for instance, the gut is actually the
Uh-huh.
mind. And I do wonder, like, even if you can sever the brain, does the body not still have some memory of trauma or these
Yeah,
experiences?
it
Because
it
I do
does.
wonder that. So for instance, we know that like stress can actually, alter our body, and
Yeah.
like, you produce certain hormones and everything. So let's say you're going in, like, so all of the things that poor Gemma had to suffer through, which were terrible. So I'm just imagining it could physiologically change her. So even
Yeah.
if you think, "Oh, I've severed my brain, I everything is fine," but really I don't know that it is. I think it's
I
holistic, right? It's all kind of connected in some
Yeah,
ways.
it is all connected. Your body is meant to keep your mind safe,
Mhm.
and vice versa. And there's a really good book called It Didn't Start With You. Great read. It dives into exactly that, where
Oh, sorry.
there's these studies that show like stress in a pregnant woman will can be observed and will impact the child that is growing inside of her, and it will have more a predisposition to stress, or have some kind of issue because of what was happening in the mother's body at the time of its creation. um, it is fascinating. I'm not doing it justice as I describe it right now, truly, but with all of that, I fully believe that the body keeps score. There
Mhm.
is a large part of the severance thing that I think kind of overlooks that right now, and I hope that they address it at some point, because like there's a even when you switch in the elevator, um, there's a moment where like Mark is like freaking out, or he just watched Helly. Uh, it was when he sees that Helly hung herself,
Oh
and
god,
he
yeah.
is trying to get help her, and then Mr. Grainer pushes him into the elevator and is like, get out of here. To me, Mark switching back to the other version of Mark would be would have some kind of reaction. Like your adrenaline system, your flight or flee
Fight or
response,
flight.
thank you,
Yes.
is absolutely triggered in that moment. Yeah, you would be feeling something even if you didn't remember it. Your body would be tense, your jaw might have been clenched, like, yeah, something, your blood's rushing, your heart's pumping, you would feel some kind of thing. It wouldn't just be another day at the office. um
Absolutely, yes.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
and
there are, and we do see some of these effects on Gemma. So when she comes out of the dentist's office, she's like, or the
yeah,
dental room, or what have you, she says, "My jaw's really sore." So
yeah.
maybe he gave her, he did some dental work without anesthetic. Yeah, like who knows?
Ooh,
And then or I don't know, like I had a root canal and it really hurt, like after
yeah,
even after I had it done, even with freezing, right? Because it's a lot of needles and stuff that you get done. Or she would get carpal tunnel from having to write all, or hand cramp from having to write all those letters, kind of
yeah,
thing, those thank you, those cards.
yeah.
And so your body will, yeah, it'll create inflammation, it'll have a reaction to it, maybe it'll produce certain hormones as a reaction to compensate. So I think that's a really good point, though, about the fact that you're in that moment and then suddenly you're switching over, and then you're now this other person, you're like, what's going on? But you would still physiologically have those
100%.
same feelings, those
Yep.
symptoms, and you'd be like, what's going on? Like, have you ever had this? I'm sure you had this, but have you ever had a moment where you're like, why am I feeling like this? And you kind of ask yourself, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why am I feeling like this? I have a really weird feeling. Maybe I'm feeling anxious or nervous or stressed, and I can't quite figure it out. And I usually think about it and I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I had too much coffee, or maybe I'm upset about something that I'm not thinking about at the moment, but it's
Yeah.
in the back of my mind or whatever. So it kind of like, I'm just imagining like Gemma getting a panic attack and not really knowing why she's having a panic attack. And it's like because of these traumas
Mhm.
that have happened to her. So I think in a way while they may be well intentioned, I don't think they're well intentioned, but
Yeah.
the idea that they're removing pain, I think it's kind of like borrowing from the bank. It's kind of
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
it's like using heroin. Like heroin uses, that's why when you go off of heroin, your body can no longer produce these anti-pain,
Hmm.
what do they call it? Sorry. It's something to do with the synapse. You can no
Uh-huh.
longer produce these endorphins that will give you pain relief because you've been borrowing from the bank, basically. And I sort of think it's
Mm.
like that. So I think it's an interesting concept, but I think I think it'd kind of like eventually blow up in their
Oh, yeah.
faces.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that I mean, if that is gonna be a part of the show,
Mhm.
'Cause it doesn't have to be
They
inherently.
may not. They may not
They may
explore this.
not.
I mean, maybe they just
Yeah,
want us to talk about it and think
exactly,
about
yeah.
it.
I think that the body keeping score is a really important thing that could be worked into media for the purpose of, 1, it's engaging, and 2, more people need to know about it. Um, but also it doesn't have to be. And I do think it could already exist in some capacity with like Irving painting the hallway. There right now I think there is like some backstory of his that we need to find out. But
Oh,
like
yeah.
if his like if his response and how his body's keeping score is to paint that image and it's drawing from his subconscious, this imagery that has impacted him, and he is then recreating something that impacted him, and he's just seeing that thing without ever having a memory of it. I think that's would be how the body's keeping score. Also, in terms of like the motor conditions and the things that are allowed via severance, and then outside of it, or yeah, I'm just like on the severed floor, we see that Helly at one point is drawing. She draws a lamp, and it's like a perfect drawing. It's so quick. It's like a 5 second scene. It's not even 5 seconds probably, but it shows that she just has this innate ability to create beautiful things and replicate and draw like that, and it's crazy. She's existed for like a month tops. I don't even know if it's been that long.
Mhm. And yeah, and Irving, and he can draw as well,
Yeah,
obviously, because he drew,
yeah.
well, I was wondering about the painting because I kind of it felt like he was trying to do the burning into his retina kind of thing, maybe,
Oh,
or was he just having these memories and he couldn't figure out how to get it out of it, like, because I was
yeah.
thinking with dreaming, like, so with the severance procedure, does it not creep into the dreaming? Because when he was in the orpo, he dreamed, or he dreamt, of the, was it Woe?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And now, of course, that did seem like an NE dream to have,
Yeah, but there
but
is
he
something
did have
interesting
it,
there.
something did leak in though, if from what I remember about Helena.
Well, yeah, he sees like her face in the numbers, um,
Mhm.
which was pretty interesting.
And that's what
And
told him, I believe, that it was
yeah,
actually Helena, not Helly.
yeah, and
So that
honestly, yeah,
was
because
in
he has that dream and then just goes hard, drowning
Mhm.
her in the river on a dream. That's
Yeah, I
that's a bold
know.
move. That's a
He was
bold
right,
move.
though.
He
He
was
was
right. It was a
right.
bold move, but yeah,
It was a bold mo well, I think he kinda knew when he was talking to her, like, when he's
yeah,
like, "What are you doing?" Like, and he kind of,
yeah, yeah.
oh
He was
my god,
he was
John
piecing it
Turturro.
together. Oh yeah, I love him.
He
He's
was amazing.
yeah.
Well, I've kept you a long time. Is there anything else you wanna touch on before we wrap
Ooh,
up? Because
um,
I know we've been having such a great conversation. I've been chatting
yeah.
too much, sorry.
Yeah, if I no, you're so fine. This has been awesome. If I had more time, I would love to sit and chat for a good bit longer, to be honest. But yeah, I got to pack and
Yeah. I know, I
get my
totally
car
get it.
ready.
Well, we'll have to have you back. Like, I mean, I would love to, anyways, Hacks, it's been so fun. And like, I
Yeah,
just love having you here. And it's been such a great conversation, such a good show.
glad to
And
be talking again. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, they say it's not going to be 3 years.
Oh, I hope not. Oh my goodness. Get two. I'll
Oh,
take 2 years. Westworld let me understand that 2 years is fine.
same test with witches. What does that mean? Do you know what
Same
that
test
means?
with witches. Same test
Same
with
speed
witches.
too.
Same speed too. I'm not sure.
Aylor, do you want to tell us what you mean by that?
Hey, Lord.
Same test with witches.
Same test.
Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful time tomorrow. So where is it you're
Yeah.
going? You were telling me you're going to like a provincial park, not a provincial park, but a state park, or
Yeah, I'm going
is it where
to
the world's tallest waterfall is?
I hope there's one waterfall because I'm gonna take a
That'd be
picture
really
with that
nice.
caption now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am going to Big Bend National Park. It is um there's a little music festival out there. I'm
Oh,
gonna
nice.
get to dance in and enjoy the stars. Truly, that's for me, that is one of the biggest things. I went there when I was like 15 or so, and it is the most beautiful night sky that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've wanted to go back since then.
What state is it in?
It's in Texas. It's just
Oh,
like
amazing. So
in
it'll be
West
warm,
Texas.
like warm weather and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you're from Texas, aren't you?
yeah. I'm in Austin right now.
Yeah,
Big
that was
Bend
so
is
funny because
about
I remember when I first met you, I said, "You're from Texas? You don't sound like a Texan. You don't sound
yeah.
like, all the Texas."
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Is it because you're from Austin, or you're in Austin, or?
No, I mean, I am kind of a mutt. I was
Hmm.
actually born in Arizona and then
Oh, okay.
left when I was like 3, and then my parents were divorced, so I spent like half of my life growing up, at least, here in Texas, and then half of it in just south of Baltimore in Maryland, and yeah, it's good. I don't
Because you
know
could
if I have.
honestly, you could pass as a Canadian. You
Hey,
could.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you could because here it is. He said he threw her into the water like he was in the 1600s. Oh, I see. Yes, yes. To see if she would drown. Is that what you're talking about? Some
Ooh,
folk back then would
ooh.
either burn or drown the accusers for witchcraft. Yeah. So the old folklore is if you tried to drown a witch and they died, that means they aren't a witch, but at least they would get a Christian burial. But if they didn't drown, then they were a witch, I guess.
We weren't
But
using 100% of our brain back then, I don't think. Yeah.
yeah. But Irving was right. Yeah, he was right. That was that whole switch over. Like I
Yeah.
can't even imagine what that would be like. And I mean, Helena was right. Like they did try to kill her twice.
Yeah. Honestly, her being sent back down there is the biggest red flag. And also her parent or
Mm,
her dad is like, "It's okay. This person, yourself tried to kill you.
yeah.
I'm willing to roll the dice."
Hmm. Yeah. Heard. Oh, by the way, we'll have to have you back and we'll have to talk about James.
Oh
It's
my
funny because I
god.
remember when I thought it was a typo originally when
Uh-huh.
they first said his name, James Egan, and
It's James
that
is so
guy,
hard for me
that
to
actor
remember.
too, he actually, well, he looks pretty much like the character, but they've given him like kind of like a weird haircut and everything,
Yeah,
so it just
yeah.
makes him all the more terrifying.
It's like he's
He's just
disconnected from the world or something, or
oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the way he was just like watching Helly eating that egg and she was only eating the egg white, and but at least when she was Helly, she could go down to the Severance floor and just pig out on
Oh,
some
yeah.
snacks. That's
That's
probably what
actually
she did.
that's so funny, yeah.
That's probably what she did after eating that egg white. She would go down there. I heard actually that they do get a lunch. Like they
Hmm.
order it at the beginning of the week, and then they get kind of like when Milchek has to order his lunch during his review.
Oh.
So they get a menu and then they order their lunch during, at the beginning of the week, and then they get their 5 lunches, and then but they also get snacks and stuff too. So
Hmm. It's so
so
funny. I've never thought about
so
their
the
lunch
Audi
hour.
decides what they eat. They don't get to choose what they eat. That's another little weird bit of control that
Honestly,
happens
they
there.
is that from, like, the Lexington letter or something like that? Or the,
I'm not sure where I saw like
yeah,
no, so I can't verify that it's absolutely true. I thought it was one of the showrunners, but I can't verify that that's true because
yeah.
somebody was saying, well, what do they eat? I just thought they just ate the food out of the vending machine, but
Yeah, truly, I've
apparently,
never
yeah,
had a conscious thought about their lunch hour, but yeah, the
yeah,
vending
they've
machine
never
is
really
not.
showed it because they
Yeah,
seem to
yeah.
slack off a lot anyway. They don't seem to really do a lot of
They don't. They
They
are
like drinking
bad
coffee.
employees. They are bad employees.
They are, yeah. They're just like sort of like you're like, let's go down for a walk or whatever. Let's go to whatever the other departments and
Yeah.
walk around and stuff. Yeah. So
Also, where is security? Where is the
I
security?
I don't
Where is
know. They
security?
had a
Like,
security person in season 1.
what are they doing?
I don't know. I think it's kind of up there with House of the Dragon. Like how come there was no when they assassinated the baby or murdered
Mhm.
the baby, like where were the guards? It's sort of like that whole thing. Oh, hi, John. John says,
John Cook.
what do you all think of the mural of all involved during the
Ooh,
completion of Cold Harbor? Oh, that was amazing. It
yeah, it
had
was.
all of the MN division, Rickon, Beck, many other minor characters and non-severed, non-lumen individuals. Yeah, absolutely right. There were like people outies that are like that, that they wouldn't even know.
Yeah. I fully believe that it is, yeah, like you say, Lumen is aware of all of those folks, and it
Mhm.
relates to Mark's completion and the exalted victory of Cold Harbor. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Lumen knows much more, and the concept of a panopticon, where it's like a prison with a singular guard tower, and all of the cells, circle around it, so the prisoners never know if they're being watched or not. I think that is gonna be made clear. I was hoping it was gonna be made clear this season, but
Yeah.
I think it's coming up. I think that's what's happening, and I also think that it would be kind of crazy if Lumen wasn't aware of Ragabi at Mark's house. Like, I don't know. I What are they doing?
I'm
If
pretty sure they're all being surveilled
I think
because
so too. I think
those
so
are
too.
lumen houses. They would have
Yep.
in the infrastructure, right?
Yep. And they also show us, like, they show Mark looking out the window, and in the
Mhm.
reflection in the window, you can see the water tower, and it's like, to me, that's everything.
Wow.
To me, Lumen knows, and
Mhm.
and
By the way, those
yeah.
houses actually exist. Do you know that?
Oh
There
yeah.
was this great video. I just let everyone know before we let you go. There's this great video. It's a creator that Jack watches on YouTube, and he went to actually visit like Bell Labs and did a full tour there.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a nearby town where those houses are, those blue Wedgwood houses that Miss Cabell or like Mrs. Selvig uh, uh, and Mark live in.
Yeah.
And then there's also Irving's home and everything. So that's in a nearby town, I guess. That's not too
Hmm.
far from the Bell Labs. But like that water tower is real.
Yeah.
And then when you walk into the building where Kier's that there's like a bas relief of Kier. That's actually
Mhm.
just a big slab of marble, and they've added that in.
Mm.
But
Oh
most of
yeah.
it is
Yeah.
pretty close to what it looks like, the parking lot and everything, like the driveway. Even when the creator, when he went there, it was wintertime as well. So it was like even looks similar to what it looked like in Severance. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. I think I've seen that video where someone
Yeah,
puts that together. Yeah.
it was really good. So adding to the oh, you want me to read this word? Panopticon
Panopticon. Yeah.
analysis. Recall the suggestion by Helly that the equator could be a building big as a continent, and Mark had an obvious realization, I think, panoptic. Sorry,
Yeah.
can you explain that to me? I don't know what that means.
I think that just like the it's all part of the same structure in some
Mhm.
meaningful capacity. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I think yeah, the panopticon is actually that word came to me as a comment. Um and when I looked it up, I was shocked. Like, it's a cool concept for a prison, and
I'm gonna
I,
look it up.
yeah, it's it works because the prisoners never know if they're being watched or not, but
Oh,
they
okay.
they have to always assume that they are whenever they do anything. Um and I mean, yeah, it feels like it would fit the story kind of perfectly. Um
Yeah. I think there's a creator who did, yeah. There's a creator. Oh, okay. There's a creator who did a video on prisons, and she actually talked about the one in Andor, which I think is such a brilliant prison. The one in Andor, if you've seen
Andor.
Andor,
The TV
um,
show?
the TV show,
No, I did
yeah.
not.
But she did. Okay, here it is. It's a circular building with cells around the outside and a guard tower in the middle. Okay. Oh, that's really interesting.
Right?
It means all seeing. Oh, that's very cool. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I think a panopticon could come into the story in a big way.
Hmm.
Um but I don't know. I also thought
Wow.
dream time dilation was going to be a word that we were going to hear in the season, but
So the effect is prisoners believe they are always being watched, so they behave to avoid punishment. Yeah. Well, one of the things in Andor that they have is they have a floor that they can step on that will kill them. So there's always suicide is always an option.
what the
Where but in this world, there's no suicide as an option. You cannot kill yourself. At least you probably could try, but they will
yeah,
do everything they can to not prevent you from doing that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's the Imperium that are running this
Mm.
prison, so they're super bad guys, right? So
It's like, yeah, you
in
know
a
what?
Star Wars universe.
we'll feed you, but also,
Yeah.
if you don't want to be fed, like, step.
Yeah. Well, they basically, they basically are given just the necessities. That's it. And then it's just like, okay. And then if you decide you want to just, that's it. I don't want to don't want to do this anymore, because it's like a labor prison. So, and there's
Mm,
no escape. So basically you have no choice, but to do whatever they do. And then they could even kill you while you're working. That's the other thing. So it gets so dire and hopeless that,
yeah.
the only out is to off yourself. Right. So on that dark note, Andor's a great show though, by the way.
Cool.
Andy Serkis is in it. It was like season
Oh,
1. It's
love.
so brilliant. So anyway, well, Hax, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. By the way, I didn't even mention your book. Maybe do you want to plug your book while you're here as well?
Oh, sure.
You don't
Yeah.
have to, but I'd love you to.
In 2019, I wrote a book called Cyclic. You can find it on Amazon. It is a little story that deals with the greater good and a cool technology that maybe a corporation comes up with and lets you just create whatever you want in the world. And it's out there on Amazon. It was a passion project for many years, and the sequel is not being worked on right now, but maybe it will be one day.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And it's been such a blast having you and just chatting with you and talking about this show, which is so cool. And
Yeah. Also,
but also it's been too long.
it's
I'm
been
so
too
sorry.
long.
It's been so long. I'm really
Likewise,
glad we had you.
life happens, and I'm glad that we got to sit for a couple hours and hang out again.
Me
Been really nice.
too.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to thank everyone who came by as well. It was really fun. I haven't done a live stream for a while, so this was really nice. I think it's been like a month since
Yeah.
I've done a live stream. So it was really, really fun to do this, and hopefully we'll be
Yeah.
doing more in the near future.
What are your plans for content? Are you going to stick to the Severance space for a little bit, or?
Well, I'm going to, one of the things that I've been doing more of is I'm interviewing costume designers. So
Mhm,
I've been
mhm.
I've been doing more interviews. So I'm hoping to do more of that. But I've been kind of going back to Game of Thrones.
Oh, it's so good. Also,
Like I'm doing a video right now on the jewelry. It's just
yeah,
so I'm nerding out. Like it's sort of, but I just like I've been doing Game of Thrones. Like I just keep going back to Game of Thrones. But you know what? Honestly,
it's
I
the
think
best.
it's just my favorite show of all time. Like I don't know what to say.
It's one of the
Like
best
I
shows
love it
ever
so
made.
much.
Yep. I was actually today talking about your videos where you interview people from, these amazing shows that we love. And I you have such a awesome understanding of your niche, and I love it. Like,
Oh my
it
God,
just
thank you so much.
you
That's so
you make
sweet of you.
awesome videos, and it is abundantly clear that you love talking about costume and design, and yeah, it's something to
I do.
admire.
You know, it was so funny. I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday morning. I was in the kitchen and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try and get a hold of Michelle Clapton, who did the costumes for Game of Thrones. Cause I've done like, I don't know, 60 or 70 videos on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And, I think probably there's an anniversary coming up. And I was just like, there's some things like, cause I'm doing this video right now on some of the jewelry. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like, what is
Mm,
that thing? And I would just like really
interesting.
love to just say, Michelle, I have to show you some pictures and I need you to tell me what these things are or where they
Explain
came from or where
yourself.
you got them or,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Cause I'm like, I don't know. Right. I just honestly don't know. And so I just think it'd be really, really cool. But I am interviewing the costume designer for Wheel of Time coming up. That's so exciting.
That is.
Yeah, so she did both season 2 and 3, and that show's really good. Like season 1 wasn't as good, like it didn't do that well, and I'm not a book reader, but I just am watching the show. But it's actually really fun and really thrilling. So it's on
Nice.
Amazon.
I need to watch that. I heard that the first season wasn't that good,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'll be honest, I didn't even realize that seasons 2 and 3 were out.
Well,
That's
season
awesome.
3 just came out, so it's sorry, I was mentioning to you earlier about like watching a show. I think we've all come to the point where doing a big dump on Netflix or something just doesn't work
Oh
for most
yeah,
of us.
I hate it.
Yeah, so it's great. So they're doing it weekly and,
Good.
and then you can in between like this, so you can talk about a show, You can do some
You
analysis. You
can
can come
think
up with
about
some
it.
fun theories, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you can have time to just exist in the what
Exactly.
ifs and not everything need to be answered right away, and you can just talk to your friends and coworkers about the thing you just watched. It's yeah, weekly is the way to go.
For sure. So I am hoping that I can get Michelle Clapton, but I don't have, yeah, I don't really have my next big show lined up. I'm sort of thinking, like I was mentioning, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but that's not going to
Oh,
be out
yeah.
till the end of the year or maybe later in the year. But I've
Mm,
had a couple of times when something's dropped and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And then I just get super excited.
yeah.
I was like that with Midsommar. Like when that came out,
Mm,
I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, I got to do a video on this because
yep.
it's just so good. And the costumes in that were gorgeous, like
10 out
just
of 10.
beautiful.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's one of those ones I watched and I was like, I can't wait to do the video. I get that excitement feeling. So I haven't had that for a little while. I'm hoping that can come back again.
Yeah. I hope so too. I hope that there's like something suddenly comes out of nowhere, and yeah, in that feeling of like
Yeah.
I have
I
something
was
to
kind of like
say.
that
I
with
want
Shogun because
to.
I know you were talking about
Oh my
Shogun, and
god, I love Shogun.
I did get to interview Carlos, who is the costume
That's
designer for that.
right.
And I met him like a couple of weeks ago. He was in Toronto and I was at an event and he was there and we got to chat and he was just
What?
like the nicest guy. Yeah, he's so great.
Wait, that's sick.
And I kind of stalked him. Like I was even joking about it because I met one of his assistants and I said,
Uh-huh.
I stalked Carlos. Like I was like messaging him and I was like, hey man, you want to talk to me? And he said I was the first person to come after him. Like I was the first person to reach out to him when I found out because he knew I was a huge fan of Shogun as a kid. I loved it. My dad was a
Hey.
big James Clavell reader and had read all his books. And my mom and dad would sit down and watch that show together. And he said he was the same. He was like his mom and dad watched it. So we kind of had that in common. But I have to say he is the nicest person.
Aw.
And they're going to be shooting it again in Vancouver, but they also are doing some scenes in Japan. So that's going to be very exciting,
That
right?
is.
Yeah. So season 2, they're doing it, even though I don't know what they're doing it on because the
No
book ended.
clue. I have no clue. I love Shogun. That
It was so
to
good.
me is one of the most slept on shows of last year. I have no
Absolutely.
idea why it did not trend more. I think that maybe like it didn't get enough budget for marketing or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was one that first episode came out and I got that feeling. I got that like there's something cool happening here. I want to talk about it. Let's start making videos. And yeah.
Yeah, and it won a lot of awards though. It did. It like
It
I don't
did.
know that it was if it obviously it did well enough because they are renewing it, but it was very critically acclaimed because it was just like and of course it reminded me of like Westworld, right?
Yep.
Like we had the
Yep.
Shogun world in
It felt like it
Westworld.
was Shogun World. It felt like,
Yeah.
we got to experience it.
And we
I
had it was what's his name? Sonata, the actor.
oh, Hiroyuki Sanada. Yeah.
Hiroyuki. Yes, of course we
Love,
had
love.
him. So,
Yep.
it was like just it was sort of like magic to
It's our
have him
boy.
in
Our
that.
boy was back. Yeah.
He was,
Um,
yeah. So I was definitely I was like, oh, this is like a Westworld
yeah.
crossover.
So that show, I think every single video I made about that show, I lost subscribers. Like
Really?
nobody was watching.
Yeah.
It like I in comparison, I think I maybe have like 20% of the views that I have for Severance per video kind of thing.
Well, maybe
It was
it'll be
not
like
that popular.
Severance, and then when they do the
Yeah.
season 2, that it'll gain because I didn't
Yeah.
get a lot of attention for it either, but
Yep.
I did it because I just loved it so
No, exactly.
much.
I was
Yeah.
losing subs and completely okay. Like I was like, I'm making my art. Like this isn't for anybody else. I love
Mhm.
talking about this show, and I did.
And it was great because Carlos ended up going on to do Alien like Romulus. And
Ooh,
so then I had him on that, and it looks like he's going to do a sequel to that. So I was like, I've got this guy in my Rolodex, I've got
that's
him.
cool. Yeah, that's cool.
So anyway, well, thank you so much, Haxor. I'm going to let you go because I know you have to go pack, and I've
Hey,
kept you
thank you,
so long,
thank
but
you.
this has been so fun. We'll have to do it again for
I
sure.
look forward to it.
You as
And yeah,
well. Okay, well, thanks everyone, and thanks, Aylord. I know you had some comments there. I'm sorry we didn't get to them, but you can always leave them in the comments, and we can respond to them later.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, Aylord, we'll talk.
He's one of your viewers, I'm assuming. You know
I
him.
think, yeah,
for sure. Okay, well, thanks everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.